So up to this point, we've started this study on the Dhammapada, and we've sort of been, we're on chapter 5 now, we've been zooming in on, no pun intended for you zooming in, zooming in on right mindfulness and what it looks like to practice right mindfulness. We started with just kind of intellectually understanding right mindfulness, and now we're really getting into the path, narrowing in on what it looks like. And as we practice the Eightfold Path, part of using the Eightfold Path to develop right mindfulness is setting up your life and your environment to support concentration and minimize distraction. So this chapter is called Balavagga of Fools and Foolishness. And so part of being a human being, part of our environment is other humans and being in relationship with other human beings. And we need to consider that when we're developing our right mindfulness. How are we going to interact with other people? So of fools and foolishness, to call someone a fool or to refer to someone as a fool has been for centuries utilized as an insult. Obviously, the Buddha is not hurling insults here. If you look up the word foolish in dictionary.com, it says someone who acts in an unwise manner. So a court jester, for example, makes a living by acting in an unwise manner and distracts his audience from reality. That's what anatta, or the ego self, does in the mind. It distracts. So here in this context, a distracted mind is a foolish mind or an unwise mind. It's not hurling an insult. So to call someone a fool, again, within the context of the Eightfold Path, is to say that their mind, their quality of mind is distracted. It is unrestrained. It's not rooted in reality. So a distracted mind is going to engage in distraction and then also further distract surrounding minds. So to bring it back to what I was saying before, if we want to develop right mindfulness, we need to remember that when we're interacting with others, they may have a distracted mind. And if they do, we really need to guard our sense gates. We really need to be on the lookout for our own distraction. So here's the Buddha's words. The night is long for the sleepless, the road long for the weary. Suffering and ignorance is long for fools ignoring the Dhamma. A true seeker should be resolute in their solitary path, if an equal or wiser companion cannot be found. There can be no true fellowship with the foolish. So when I first came across these kinds of concepts in different teachings, this idea that there can be no true fellowship with the foolish, I kind of had some resistance to it because I thought, does that mean I have to renounce every relationship in my life? Do I have to not talk to anyone who's not on the path? But I just want to point out here that this is a very specific definition of true fellowship. So here it's the true fellowship means human relationships that support and develop and deepen your Dhamma practice. So you can't deepen your practice you can't expect someone else to help you deepen your practice if they're not also practicing, if they're not also on the path. And so that's what the Buddha means when he says there can be no true fellowship with the foolish. So the Sangha would be who we're talking about here, where we can develop true fellowship. The Sangha is going to be the individuals or the human relationships that we have that is going to support our practice and help us deepen right mindfulness. There was something else I wanted to say there. Oh, and if you don't have other individuals who are practicing the Eightfold Path, then you have to be ready to just be by yourself, the solitary path. Okay? Resolute, a true seeker is resolute in their solitary path if you can't find anyone else. Okay, back to the Buddha's words. The fool worries, distracted. I have sons, I have wealth, not knowing heartwood. The fool who thinks themselves wise is foolish indeed. The fool who knows their foolishness has the beginning of wisdom. Just as a spoon cannot taste the soup, the fool cannot gain wisdom through association with the wise. Just as the tongue tastes the flavor of soup, those discerning wisely quickly learn the heartwood through wise associations. So here he's pointing out that just having a Sangha is not good enough. So you have to, this is an inside job. So we always hear John saying that. You have to do this work yourself. You have to be developing your own discernment. So being in a Sangha is important, but also working the Dhamma yourself is important. The other thing that's kind of being touched on here is when you're interacting with others, you have to practice restraint. You always have to practice restraint, but specifically here, we're kind of discussing when we interact with others, we have to practice restraint, even when we're interacting with other Sangha members. Because there's always this tendency there to become distracted. So we have to, again, guard the sense gates when we're interacting with others, because distraction is contagious. Okay, so in this next excerpt, the Buddha explains kind of what an unrestrained mind looks like. He's talking about the fool. He's telling us what an unrestrained mind looks like so that we can recognize it when we're interacting with others. He's telling us this so that we can recognize an unrestrained mind and act accordingly, kind of like being on alert. So remember back to chapter 3. If you didn't read it, I'll just give you a little tiny summary. There was an analogy that I'm not giving you a summary, but this is the part I want to pull out. The Buddha uses a summary of the unrestrained mind as being a fish out of water flopping around. And I think that's helpful here. That's a helpful analogy to remember because, even within ourselves, the mind's flapping around. It's like a fish out of water. You're trying, my husband loves to fish. So you see what happens when you try to grab the fish. It flops all over even worse. So if you try to start to control it, it's just all over the place. So and in that same chapter, the Buddha refers to the Dhamma practitioner as being one who straightens the mind like a fletcher straightens an arrow. So recognizing an unrestrained mind in ourselves is it's flopping around. Recognizing it in someone else is also they're flopping around. So if we can start to recognize that, we can behave skillfully in our moment-by-moment interaction with others. Okay, back to the Buddha's words. This is the flapping around part. So he's trying to show us what it looks like to have a foolish mind. Witless fools harm themselves and others. The fruits of their deeds are always bitter. The fool's unskillful acts are as a fruit that ripens in tears. The wise one's skillful acts are as a fruit that ripens in peace and happiness. The fool whose deeds have yet to ripen delights, yet once ripened the fool always grieves. Wandering endlessly in ignorance, taking sustenance with a blade of grass, The fool never gains a speck of truth of the wise. Foolish acts ripen slowly like sour milk, but cling to the fool like smoldering ash. The fool gains knowledge that only leads to ruin by obscuring reality and their own innate potential. The fool seeks reputation and undeserved honor among monks, nuns, householders. Through desire, greed, and continued eye-making, the fool thinks, let monks, nuns, and householders know that great works are done by me. Let them follow me as their savior. So here we see an example of how eye-making feeds on itself. Whoop. Hi, Karen. Hi, Karen. Okay, so here we see an example of how eye-making feeds on itself. The mind becomes distracted, it experiences suffering, it acts foolishly, it acts foolishly, and then because of the foolish acts, it begins to suffer more. Suffering is endless. It goes on and on and on and on, unless we interrupt it by developing and practicing and refining the Eightfold Path. Straighten the mind so that it doesn't flop around. Developing this practice will end suffering. Just like in the Buddha's time, today there is so much opportunity to avoid holding ourselves accountable in the world. The world is aflame with religious leaders and gurus and nutritionists and specialists and healthcare practitioners who can put their hands on you and give you a prescription or magically transfer some knowledge to you that will cure your ailment or your disease. These individuals and practices are important. They're nourishing. But nothing will substitute for taking personal responsibility for developing full human maturity by practicing the Eightfold Path and refining right mindfulness. Back to the Buddha's words. The fool seeks worldly gain, the wise seeks heartwood. Through right view, the disciple abandons worldly entanglements and develops release from all ignorant views. All views ignorant of the Four Noble Truths. That's the end. Okay. I feel like I went really fast, so I'm going to talk to everybody online first. Let's see. Which way do I want to go? I guess I'll start with Josh.
Well, good morning, Jan. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Josh.
Well, actually, I'm feeling a little foolish this morning. I had my earbuds plugged into my computer, and it wasn't working. And so I was meditating long after Jen went into her talk. That's the longest meditation I've ever done. It must have been.
How do you feel?
A little foolish.
Getting wiser every moment. Yes. Great. Well, I'm glad you're here, Josh.
Well, I am too. And once I was able to tune in, it was very, very enjoyable. Thank you, Jen. Okay.
Let's see. Karen, hi, how are you? It's good to see you. You're muted.
Hi, everybody. Sorry for the delay. I just got on. I haven't been on in weeks and weeks and weeks, and I missed the whole talk. So I'm just going to keep my mouth shut and listen.
Okay.
Thank you. You too. You too.
Hi, Anthony.
Hi. I love the Sangha. I hate to quote Jerry Maguire, but this Sangha had me from hello, because the first line is amazing. The night is long for the sleepless, the road long for the weary, suffering and ignorance is long for fools ignoring the Dharma. A true seeker should be resolute in their solitary path if an equal or wiser companion cannot be found. There can be no true fellowship with the foolish. Like I read that and it just started hitting on all kinds of levels, because it's a lot more than following the Dharma. It's associations and friendships and finding the right Sangha. And then it comes back later talking about the spoon cannot taste the soup, the fool cannot gain wisdom through association with the wise. So then you realize, well, you can have the right associations and you can have the right Sangha, but you have to put in the work and they have to help you. And so I think it's amazing. I love this Sangha. What I was wondering if you could tell me what is the heartwood? What does that mean?
Oh, sorry. The heartwood is, oh boy, getting to the root of understanding the Dhamma, really understanding it and bringing it in and having it within you and understanding it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, heartwood is like the heart of the wood, you know?
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
So,
I get it.
yeah, Ram always talks about, and so does John, because you guys are both carpenters. The center part of, help me out here, I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, it's the valuable part of the wood. It's the eightfold path.
Right. The eightfold path, which is the valuable part of, the valuable part of the wood of an actual tree is
Right.
called the heartwood.
And it's also a reference that it's something you can actually build, as opposed to that when you can't build it.
Can you hear John?
No, what did he say?
He said it's the heartwood is something you can actually build on. So the eightfold path is something you can actually build on. It has substance to it.
Yeah, that's a beautiful metaphor, because you can tell if a tree is sick by looking inside of it. You can use it to build things. You can tell its age. It's an amazing metaphor. Thank you.
So,
It's great to be here.
Yay. Good to see you, Anthony.
You too.
Who's next? Karen went. Kate.
Hello.
Hey, girl.
Hey. So this was great. You did an amazing job, obviously. I always think this even just when I'm talking to you, that you always have like a very clear and very linear and very sort of logical,
Hey.
way of explaining things. And it just really helps the understanding, at least for me, be very clear. So,
Hello.
sorry, we have somebody dropping in here. I loved the fish out of water analogy. That's such a great analogy for the mind. And I definitely relate to that in terms of the way my mind works. So I think that was one of the things that I took out of this that I thought was really great. I don't really have anything else to add, but that was wonderful and you did a great job. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Mary. Are you nearby? Yes.
I'm here. No, it was extremely well presented, so thank you, Ben. It was also very practical and clear.
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there we go. Perfect.
Okay. All right. I think it's very pure and simplistic. It's very simple to understand. It's easy to identify when we are that fish out of the water or when we're, following the heartwood. So I think it's a wonderful reminder, very grounding, and, very simple. Like when you think that your practice is difficult or you think this material is complicated, it's very important to remember truly how simple it is. And it's we who give it the layer of complications. So easy to implement, easy to understand. So thank you, Jen.
Thank you, Mary. That was really well said. Thanks for saying that. Always. Did I get everybody online? Let me just double check. I don't need to talk to myself.
I think you did.
Yeah, great. up, Ram?
All right.
What do you got?
For organizing this, because to me, the Dhammapada it often looks like, unfortunately, just this random collection of sayings.
Mm-hmm.
And really show how even this little chapter is structured.
Mm-hmm.
Individual parts of foolishness and the results thereof that it's shown. And then, I still, every time I read one of these chapters, there's these pictures in there that are just fantastic.
Yeah.
The foolish acts ripen slowly like sour milk,
Mm-hmm.
but cling to the fool like smoldering ash.
Mm-hmm.
Can't tell you how many people that I know, I step out on that back deck and there's a big scorch mark because they cleaned out their fireplace a couple of days after their fire. And there were still hot embers in there. They stick them in a paper bag and put it out on the back deck.
Mm-hmm.
That's how foolishness persists.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then suddenly, bites you in the ass.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
The pictures are always wonderful.
Also, there's that, and I saw this when I was reading it, but I didn't want to complicate. But the reference to karma there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ripening karma.
Yeah. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, the Baba Sutra.
Yeah.
Still. Confused the hell out of me.
But to say that something is, when you do something foolish, the suffering continues to come, and then you continue to suffer. Whereas if you choose wisely, then you don't experience that suffering that then can perpetuate more foolish acts.
And it's more immediate too. I wouldn't say reward, but the effect of wise discernment is right there in the moment, because that's what
Relief.
practicing.
Yes, right.
A foolish one puts it off and slowly bubbles up, and then you're in trouble.
Yep.
Again.
Thank you. Tim.
Jen, thank you.
Yay.
That was wonderful.
Oh, thanks.
And I agree with Ron. Dhammapada is like a cliff notes, like we was talked about before, the full of the Dhamma, and broke it down. This particular chapter of the Dhammapada broke it down into many parts that it was discussing, and I just have a couple notes that I wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah.
The gist of this chapter is the importance of the wise association, and not only with others, those around us, but also the restraint within ourselves as well. And then the payoff is the embracing of the heart path. And I see in here many, and it makes sense because the 3 months of existence, pretty much affect the Dhamma in general, and they talk about here, the Buddha mentions many things here that goes to permanence and to dukkha, obviously, but also to anatta, especially towards the end when they talks about the ego building, the full seek's reputation, and undeserved honor, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And the one line that really stuck out when you were talking about the lack of restraint was the fool whose deeds have yet to ripen the lights, that would ripen the fool of his graves.
Yeah.
And that to me is the essence of craving and being not satisfied and wanting more. And so all those subtle things that are simple in the Dhamma are are in here, and in many of the chapters of the Dhammapada. And with our life, and that's the nefarious nature of life, is that it is, yes, when we talk about it, it seems simple, but these things sneak into our lives at any moment. You know, and like you said in the beginning, distraction is contagious, and it spreads. You don't even know it.
Yep.
And that restraint allows us to recognize the Four Noble Truths in a very profound way. You know, and I think in closing, this chapter directs us to recognizing what will result in dukkha, the distraction, the clinging and craving to impermanent phenomena, like the fool who feeds it to ripen. And then, and we use faith, and it's a very, maybe not a correct word, but the faith of realizing the cessation of suffering is possible. We need to believe that.
You experience it.
Third noble, noble truth.
Right.
And then at the end, the embracing of the heartwood, releasing us from suffering with concentration.
Right.
And I said a lot, but I think you really broke this down so well, perfectly.
Thank you.
And made me understand it even more. So
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you. Yeah, there's two things that you said in there that I kind of wanted to, that you reminded me of. Just the moment by moment opportunity to practice restraint or to practice foolishness. Practice foolishness. That's what I just made that up. When you, the line that you liked, it was the same line that Ron pulled out, which is the fool's deeds ripen slowly, and while the fools, I don't have it memorized, I should just pull it out. No, the deeds that have, the foolish deeds have yet to ripen always delights.
Right.
So that's arising. When a phenomenon is arising, we are always delighting, regardless of what it is. And then as it's passing away, if we're clinging and craving, and then as it's passing away, we're always grieving. And so that really, I thought, pointed out how your moment by moment experience is going to be suffering if you are always clinging to what's coming up. Yeah. So thank you. Hi, David.
The foolishness and the fool delights in the ignorant until it arises, and then there's the suffering. So it's almost like ignorance is bliss. Those arise, then they understand, but it really is an entanglement of their decision, and the wise see the wisdom and understanding that gives them that peace and that back to the word peace. So to me, this is a very tight synopsis of what our practice is. Our decision to seek the understanding and not to accept endless cycles.
Sure you don't want to start teaching? That's great. Thank you. John?
Yeah, that was really outstanding.
No.
Really was. You know, I'm not giving a high level. As much as I could be uninformed and what's along the way, you did it. The depth of understanding came through in the simple matter that can be taught. And you really have to understand the teaching.
a relief to see you smiling while I was talking.
Everything you did was put for a smile on my face.
Thank you.
No plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Kevin.
Again. There's a wonderful teaching, and to echo John and everyone, give beautiful explication of the teaching, and really made it clear. And you did it in such a way that you are our wiser companion.
Oh.
And you do not have to suffer in solitude, study in solitude. Thank you.
Thank you.
What a nice thing.
Thank you. I always enjoy hearing what you have to say. Adam. Hi there.
I missed you all last week.
Yeah.
I had one observation and two questions that I want to ask.
Okay.
The first observation is that when I first read this, I was having trouble contextualizing.
Mm-hmm.
But two things you said really kind of illuminated it and made it blossom for me. The first one was speaking about human relationships.
Yeah.
And I had a question about that. And the second thing you said was about how distraction is contagious.
Mm.
And what Kim and Ron kind of pointed that out as well. Like the idea of that bag of embers, like making a mark of your death, totally rang true to me.
Yeah.
Sort of has this knock-on effect. So I just want to say thank you for bringing that illumination. Otherwise, I was kind of quite nowhere.
Whew, thank you for saying that.
The questions I had are two. The first one was academic. I'm not sure when you hear the answer, but the question I have is, in the text, the word dharma, the Sanskrit term, is used in a sort of pejorative sense of false prophets, so to speak, whereas the Pali term Dhamma is used to represent the learning. I'm wondering what led to that choice and why the Sanskrit used pejoratively in Pali.
Yeah, I'm really glad John and Ron are here for this one.
Most of modern Buddhism is referred to as the Dharma.
Right.
Hardly anybody uses the word Dhamma. As you said, Dhamma is a Pali word, Sanskrit is Dharma. The only reason I make the distinction is to make that clear distinction. And what the Buddha actually taught is Dhamma, and everything else is referred to as Dharma. And that's the only real distinction. So you asked me about the differences in the version of the Dhammapada you were reading versus where is my sources. My sources were all of those, and then I restored the Dhammapada to what I felt was most useful for me. There's no such thing as an original Dhammapada. There's no such thing as an original Dhammapada. But there is the restored teachings of the Buddha that what is most important is to look for the context in each one. Everything the Buddha taught was taught in relation to dependent origination of Four Noble Truths. And if you hold that in mind and are willing to let go of the magic and myth, then you can see very clearly and translate it. So the answer to your question, Dhamma in my writing, on my website, nowhere else in the world, Dhamma refers to what the Buddha actually taught Dharma is everything else. So Dharma might even be a poem by Kamashoda, I'm not putting it down.
Right.
She's a Dharma teacher. What we do at Genesis is teach Dharma.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The second question I had was about right effort, I guess. And that is, what is our obligation to fools? I mean,
That's a good question.
We have our Sangha here, obviously, which is the right companions, or the things that will help us. But the other rest of them could be anybody, like our spouses, our friends,
absolutely,
families, what have you.
Right.
What obligations do we have to help them?
That's a great question, and one that I definitely understand asking. Sort of goes back to what I was saying in the beginning of when I first read that. I was like, am I supposed to, what is a wise association? Am I supposed to just expect everybody else to be on the path?
That's why we said human relationship was destructive.
Right. Yeah. So I think when you ask the question, what is our obligation to, you know, our relationships, you know, that your obligation to your boss, your spouse, your children, whatever, there's a responsibility there that you have to them, an agreement that you have with them that's outside of the Dhamma. So that's your obligation. But if you're asking specifically, you know, how do you have a relationship with someone when they're not practicing and you are, is to be restrained when you interact with them, and by use restraint. So, and what that's going to look like for you is going to be different than it is for me. But if you can notice when your mind is distracted and you're interacting with someone, you will be more skillful. If you can recognize when their mind is distracted, you will be more skillful. You'll just pause, bring it back to your breath. Even if you have an argument with your spouse, you start to sense that you are angry, that you're frustrated. That's distraction. If you can say to yourself at that moment, I'm feeling distracted right now, I'm feeling, you know, like I'm not going to be skillful, so can we just put this away, you know, until I calm down a little, whatever it is. Or, you know, you actually in that moment are able to see your own clinging and craving and what it is that you want that's different from what they want, and let that go. You're more likely to have a skillful interaction with them. I mean, we could also say that we, you know, I mean, I don't want to speak for John, but we might say that we, depending on who the individual is, if they want to know more, you know, if they notice the change in you and they want to understand more, of course, you know, it could be even more than that, teaching them something or explaining something to them, or just telling them about your experience, you know, just living your life, but doing it in a way. And I just see people like rocking out of their chairs, and so if anybody else has anything they want to add, then please do so.
Thank you, John.
Yeah. Okay. Mom. Oh, I almost left you out.
You almost left me out. Oh, skillful. That's right.
Restraint.
Probably because you know what I'm going to say.
This is the first time I've ever seen Jen teach, except for when we were at the retreat and she was teaching online. So it's different, very different. Of course, I'm very proud of her. Yeah. But what I want to say with regard to the Dhamma is really what everybody else has been saying, that how you brought together the first 4 chapters of the Dhammapada. I did that right?
Mm-hmm.
And sort of brought it down to its core, bottom line, organized it, and made it, and because I felt the same way that Juan did, like it seemed like a distracted, or sort of a group of difficult to get a handle on little excerpts, and you really organized it and made it clear, and made it so that I really can identify with the fish out of water. And I thought, I thought that the explanation of just now of the relationship and how you can be distracted by someone else whose mind is distracted, And how it's possible to recognize that. I'm still not sure that I can do that, that I can recognize it. But knowing that that is something that is possible and we can work on it, and then giving people the stepping stones to do that, which is, this is what happens. Something comes up in you, and you have to use that restraint, be skillful, so that you can practice recognizing, and that's how you identify it in it. So that was very helpful. Very helpful.
Good.
And thank you.
Thank you. There's one more person that just joined us. Hi, Matt. Do you want to say something? Or you just tuned in?
Hi, Jen.
Hi.
Everybody.
Oh, it's just in a rover.
I tuned in late, but I did read the sutta, and it's just really good to see you up here teaching the Dhamma, and following along with what John has shared with us and is sharing with the Sangha. So just really, really good to see you.
Good to see your computer screen.
Thanks for joining, Matt.
Thanks for showing up. Yeah.
Can I just add
Go ahead. Yeah, please.
Adam's question
Oh, yeah.
into our discussion?
Yeah.
I think the Dhamma is very introspective for me. And I think for everybody. Everyone's on their own pace, their own area. And that's where the Sangha is supportive and use restraint. We talk about that. I think that we don't need to look at, we need to look at ourselves and practice within ourselves. And if someone is suffering, for a lack of a better word, with doubt, with skepticism, with anger, with fear, all the things that affect us, I find that just keeping calm and practicing the Dhamma within myself, eventually, especially when we're married and with children, they see that. And you notice a little subtle change on how that interaction goes. I am very cautious to discuss the Dhamma. We talked about this a few weeks ago with other people because I'm a practitioner, not a teacher. And I would never want to say anything that would be misconstrued and be harmful. So I don't look at it that way. I look at it just how I can take this experience I'm in right now and remain in that present moment without suffering.
Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, that's really absolutely always what the best thing we can do for others is to practice the Dhamma. That's the very best thing. Yeah. So thank you for underscoring that for us. Something else you said.
Yeah, that moved me a little bit more to the right track.
Yeah, is really, and because if you're talking about it, it can be, that can be, if it's not landing on the right individual, that can just be landing on deaf ears, and now it's the wrong speech. So yeah, thank you.
But the difference shows itself in the exchange. I've found, I've always been very reluctant in discussing what I do with others, whether it's my wife or my children or friends. But I have noticed as my understanding of this and my practice deepens, the opportunity to actually have my experience be helpful to someone else, pops up. All of a sudden, you know that you can't.
Yeah.
This is the right thing to say. The right speech just comes out, and it's there, and there's no doubt all of a sudden. I think that's my experience.
Your mind is clear.
And your mind is clear, and you see the situation, and you see what the suffering is that the other person is dealing with, and even you recognize it. Oh yeah, I know this one. And then speaking from the Dhamma, from the Eightfold Path, there's no friction there.
Yeah.
It just comes out. It's good.
Yeah, I guess so. The obligation to others would be to practice the Dhamma in myself.
Yeah, that really clears it up.
Yeah.
But I think, well, we have to be a teacher to our friends who might be suffering.
Sure, right.
Yeah.
There's an element, again, back to right speech. Is it timely? Is it beneficial? Is it true? And I always encourage at the seatbelt.
Right.
And it always is back to the John's website. And I said a few weeks ago, I had a sliver of understanding, and I would not want to misdirect or misinform. But one of the first things you learn is elements of right speech. First, it's just, it's all willpower. But then you come to understand, is it timely? Is it beneficial? Does that person have any context to what you're even saying?
Right.
So quickly, you could just like spin off into like a blank stare of
Right.
what's this person,
What are they talking about? Yeah.
oddball,
Yeah.
it can look odd. But again, at the seatbelt, go see for yourself. There for you if you have a spectacles.
You hear me say often here, the most loving thing I can do for myself and for all other human beings is to take to the Dhamma and relate it. And what that means is that we're the best Dhamma teacher, in fact, I would say the only Dhamma teacher who teaches first by example. And Jen is the perfect example of that. She is such an effective teacher because she has developed the Dhamma to the point that her sitting there and speaking normally is the Dhamma. She's a perfect example. But that doesn't mean that you in the beginning of your practice cannot be an example. You're an example of whatever understanding you have right now. You integrate yourself. And that is the most powerful thing for anybody. As you develop the Dhamma to a more deeper level, like Ron said, you'll know what to say. It's not something you can really explain, except to say you'll gain an understanding of the nature of stress and your contributions to it. And along the way, you'll develop a common peaceful mind. That sounds good to almost everybody. Yeah. The rest of it has to be developed on its own. Outstanding.
Yay. Okay. So are you ready for closing? So everybody take a comfortable seat. Gently close your eyes. Gently close your mouth. And these are the Buddha's words on Metta from the Karanita Metta Sutta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud or demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing, in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short, or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will. Whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Thanks, everybody. It was a great discussion.
Thanks.
Very kind.
Thank you, Jen.
Great
Thank you,
job.
Jen. Great job.
I'm gonna, yeah.
David, you could hand me my phone.
And in a sec, as I'm done decontaminating. Bye, everybody.
Great job, Jen. See you soon.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jen.
Thank you.